On July 7th, Uranus enters Gemini and ignites the revolution within you and within the world. Now, I've talked about Uranus and Gemini in detail twice here on the channel in recent weeks. My most recent talk was the July forecast, which is doing really well here on YouTube, so I encourage you to go watch that. I don't just talk about Uranus and Gemini, I talk about the lunation cycles and the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Leo, which is massive, and that's actually the video I thought I was going to sit down and make today, just kind of like a preview, because the pre-shadow phase literally begins, I think, in a day or two from when I'm recording this. So that'll probably be the next video I put out. But the July forecast, I talked about Uranus and Gemini, a lot of other transits going on in July, of course. And then a couple of weeks back, I also talked in detail about Uranus and Gemini in maybe more of a global context, and a little bit about how this could affect us. Now, today I want to expand a little bit more on Uranus and Gemini, and I feel most astrologers are really sticking their neck out, trying their best to cover as much as they can before this shift actually happens. Because I don't think many of us realize how incredibly abrupt and shocking this transit might be in the very early days. And when we look at the world, I mean, we can just continue to shake our head at the fuckery, to excuse my language, and just like go, oh my God, well, what else shocking can possibly happen? Well, I don't think we've seen anything yet. That's my honest thought on that. But we all of us astrologers, people who are really doing our best to look into this transit with clear insight versus fear-mongering, world-ending language, we are doing our best to try to delineate what we think could be coming from this, especially with the trines going to Pluto, which is going to radically influence the Pluto and Aquarius age, and of course the freshly ingress Neptune and Saturn into Aries, which we're really just starting to see the very beginnings of, because Neptune and Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces, just as Uranus will go back into Taurus in the fall. So again, this summer into the fall are really just sort of like the taste of what might go down in the world and those parts of our lives, wherever Gemini is in your life, wherever Aries is in your life, and of course, wherever Aquarius is in your life. This is where we're going to see those first liberating or shocking, disruptive shifts. And when I say those words, I don't want anyone to get so scared about them. Maybe on the world stage, we all should be a little bit nervous, but that's okay. And that's also something I always hope to guide you guys through, is how do we handle such abrupt, radical, nervous system demolishing change? And the answer is stillness, mindfulness, and to really sort of understand the power of staying grounded. And because at the same time, we're going to become much more psychically, I think, overwhelmed. And for some of us, that's going to be actually a really powerful initiation into a lot of new ways of operating in your own life, in the world. And of course, if you are getting more in tune with spiritual practice, spiritual work, astrology, the psychic arts, I know a lot of you guys are into this stuff out there. So I just want you to prepare yourself and prepare your nervous systems for this kind of shift, because Gemini rules the nervous system. At least that's how I view it. Because I mean, the mind is where that's the data that, you know, that's the motherboard of like the nervous system of the body. So this is quite an interesting time, and this beginning shift, this first ingress into Gemini, is where we see so much of what actually might start to manifest in these very, very early days. So again, when we look at the world, we see a lot of war stuff, war drumming, warmongering. When we look at technology, we see more and more conversations around if AI is conscious. And that's a whole other conversation, to be honest with you. And My answer, actually, I don't want to get into it, but no, I don't think AI is conscious, but I do think that we live within the dreaming God's mind, which is the ever-present consciousness of the source. So one could argue everything is conscious from one perspective. So the real thing is what is thought? Like, what is the mind? And how is Uranus going to reshape this void source of collective mind? And how is Uranus and Gemini going to be influencing the power structures of the world? How is Uranus and Gemini going to be offering opportunity via sextile to the Aries part of the collective mind, where we're trying to become more individualistic and become more assertive and more, conflict oriented in many ways? Because again, we have to understand conflict is necessary in order for transformation, because everybody is, conflict is the friction and tension we need in order to overcome a problem, to evolve out of an old version of self, an old world. And that is just the name of the game. Okay. Evolution is the name of the game in the world. Evolution is the name of the game of spirit and soul, AKA reincarnation in the recycling of life experience. Look to the natural world. There is a constant birthing, enduring, and dying. This is what the seasons show us. So all we have to do is look to nature to literally solve and understand every problem there is. And when it comes to Uranus and Gemini, this is a complete and utter rewiring and repatterning of how we come into this world and how we view thoughts, ideas, communication, consciousness itself. Okay. So for many of you guys who know me, of course, you know me as an astrologer, you know me as some sort of a tarot, expert, I guess, because I very much teach people tarot symbolism, and I want you all to understand the esoteric arts as deeply as possible so we can navigate our lives in a very psycho-spiritual, developmental way, because we all need this we all need this work in this lifetime, in this moment. But I'm also someone who's very embedded into the philosophies of understanding the heart of the nature of reality. And this includes the study of the nature of mind. This includes Buddhist thought. This includes all the theologies of the world. I've always been just very interested in wanting to know how the hell this entire reality works. What religious thought is right? Or are they all full of shit? And we're just trying to get to the heart of one mystical truth of oneness, which is what I sort of believe at the end there. But honestly, guys, Uranus and Gemini, this is really going to ignite that revolution within our mental thought patterning, how the world is being operated from that very mental level. And again, the power structures and the opportunities that can be coming from all of this that are literally world building, world shaping. And again, the way that we even come into the world and view life will radically change. Okay, just look at what ChatGPT has done over the last couple of years. It has completely rewired the way that we even come to solve problems. It has completely offered massive advantages for some on how to take notes and how to structure books that they want to write, how to approach business plans and strategy. And then, of course, on the more negative side to all of this, this is maybe taking people away from critical thinking or how to really write their book from their heart, where they're just asking ChatGPT, hey, I want to write a book about this. And ChatGPT just gives them that. So again, we're all navigating a very mental landscape right now and coming into a new world, a revolutionary time where communication and how we mentally engage is the name of the game. And everything starts with the mind, okay? Yes, the heart and the soul and the spirit are so important for how we show up in the world, how we really connect on the deepest of levels. But let's not kid ourselves. We are human beings. We have a brain. We have a psyche. The psyche and the soul work together, okay? The soul needs the mind. The soul needs our psyche. This is the one massive lesson and investigation that Buddhism sort of teaches us. Like, what is the mind? Like, understand the true nature of your mind, and you will understand more deeply the source of the mind. And that is what meditation is good for. That is what mindfulness is good for. The presence that we all need to really understand as deeply as possible, so we can navigate just the duality of life, which is another massive Gemini theme. So the radical nature of duality will be front and center. And we have a massive opportunity to work with this and to ground this and to use it to our benefit, because we have to, again, take this very mental world and our psyches and what we have programmed our psyches to believe and to operate and to operate from. And we need to examine so many things in our life, my friends. So today I want to kind of go down some talking points without getting too philosophical, without getting too off the rails here. And again, these Uranus and Gemini videos, I think, are going to be, I feel like I've been a little bit more like loosey-goosey with you guys as I approach the conversations here with this particular transit, because I'm really trying my best to even intuitively and psychically feel into what this is going to bring, like all of us, and even myself. I mean, this is going to be hitting my 8th house. And I already feel like I'm sensing into a lot of psychic territory. Okay. And my moon in Chiron is in the 8th house. So, this is going to be a very powerful time for me in my inner world. And again, the wounds maybe that I've been carrying for so long, like involving that 8th house stuff, but also my deep calling and initiation that I've been undergoing for years, involving helping other people psychologically through psychic insight. And again, that deeper layer of the subconscious that 8th house is known for, that place of transformation and death in crisis, even like being more in tune with the realm of death in crisis and helping people who come to me in readings through very, very deep things. And Uranus, I think, is going to be providing, and it's aspecting massive places in my chart, which I won't get into. I think I've talked about my chart a lot here on the channel for those of you who follow me. But yeah, there's a lot involving my, even my work as an astrologer, coming into more deeply, psychic realms, if you will, in order to enhance my astrological practice and the way that I help people, But this transit is going to be huge for us, my friends. And I really want all of us to try to understand as much of it as possible. And that's why I'm showing up here again today to guide you the best I can in some of the things that I feel are still worth talking about. Now, I know in my July forecast, I said, hey, I'm probably not going to talk about Uranus and Gemini anymore. But listen, guys, I feel there could be just so much more to say on this. And I don't want to get into mundane astrology too heavily on the channel, because there's enough, trust me, there's enough doom and gloom astrologers out there trying to fearmonger all of you. And then there's a lot of other astrologers that are just trying to, I think, just mislead people in a realm where that can make people feel like everything is going to collapse under their feet. And this is a time to fear in a way, and to look at the world and to prepare for the rapture. I mean, the rapture fetish, in the spiritual community is just like beyond, guys. So, and that's what it is. It's a fetish. Okay. And whether if it's for clickbait or whether people actually just feel like the ascension is now or something, like, it's just, come on. I mean, people have been predicting raptures for fucking ever, and nothing's ever happened. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be some cataclysms or things that are going to shift the natural world, in some kind of earthquake or some kind of disruptive way, but that's always going on. So again, but what is it going to, if it does happen, how is that going to shape the archetype of Gemini? How is that going to bring us into a new era of time? Now, when we look at these transits, we have to analyze the zodiac signs, okay? Uranus in Taurus was really the cycle where we're dealing with Earth, okay? Gemini is about the mind. This is about communication. This is about thought patterning and conversations. So if there is anything that goes on the world stage, or within the natural world or climate stuff, this is, or just natural disasters, this is going to spark the conversation for continued innovation, potentially on how to solve those things, or potential revolution and anger around like the fight for fixing these things potentially, or whatever the case may be. But we have to understand this is an awakening and a revolution of the mind and of thought systems and of the way that we come into the world, as we think our way through the world, essentially. Now, the last time Uranus was in Gemini was World War II, like I've said a million times, and this was the birth of modern media, atomic theory, and post-war reordering of the world. Now, I just wanted to mention that really quickly because, again, that really gives us kind of a good like landing, a good landing page, if you will, of like what this could be bringing to us once again. The modern media shift into something else. We're dealing with atomic stuff again with Iran and just nuclear things here, nuclear things there. Pluto and Aquarius, this is a massive platonic story involving potentially the atomic age in a new era of time. So we're dealing with also post world order conversations. Okay. We have administrations in the United States that are shaking up the world in a really big way. Now, no one really knows where the nature of politics are going, but what's for sure is that things are shaking up. Things are being transformed. Conversations are being had that are shifting the world. And a lot of people are very upset about that. And a lot of people are still thinking that there's a new world that needs to be born from like maybe more of an authoritarian perspective. Now, this is the whole point, guys, when it comes to Uranus in Gemini and the way it's going to be aspecting Pluto and the early degrees of Aries with like Neptune. Neptune is vision, right? Something's trying to be dreamed into being. And Pluto is this shamanic force of complete and utter transformation, the crumbling and death of something old and the rebirth and regeneration of something new. And then Uranus is kind of the mental structure and the stimulating force behind the way we think and mentally manifest that kind of puts it all together. Uranus will be the great disruptor and sledgehammer that kind of gets the new world and the events that unfold and the things going on in your life like accelerated. So that's why July through the fall is going to be this amazing time. And when I say amazing, take that with a grain of salt, of course, because I know some of you kind of look at the world maybe a little bit negatively right now, which is fine. I do too. I mean, a lot of things going on in the world are very like insane, but this is a time for mental restructuring, the awakening of the mind in a way, the collective mind and the mind within our own minds in a massive way. And all of this is going to provide us with that wrecking ball that we all need and the world needs in order to radically change course potentially of what is going to happen. Now in this video, I know I'm already at like 19 minutes, but I want to discuss more a little bit on how this is going to be affecting maybe ourselves a little bit. More than the world, even though I did go on a tangent there for almost 20 minutes going around a couple of different things. But I want to spend the rest of this time with this video talking about you and the revolution within you. And I want to talk about where Gemini is in your life. And I know many of you have shared where Gemini is in your life. And I would like to know more about that. I would like to know more about the Gemini part of your life because I feel that is a place where your nervous system really is going to need extra care. So I want to help you understand that and help you understand that part of your life, and to see where those links are to Aquarius and Aries as well, because we have to really start rewiring our thought patterning and our belief systems even. So let's take a quick pause right there and just, kind of take a breath. And also, if you're enjoying this video thus far, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video. All that stuff really helps the channel's growth, my friends. And yeah, if anyone would like to book readings with me and check out more of who I am and what I'm all about, there's links down below, and you can go to my website and book some readings. I have a few spots left in July if you would like to book. And yeah, other than that, I really don't have much going on. And any other announcements I'll make in further videos. So with that all being said, my friends, let's just get right back into talking about this historic transit. All right, my friends. Well, I would like to talk to you a little bit more about Uranus and Gemini and how this is directly going to affect you. Now, I've talked enough about the collective stuff, I think. I know some of you guys really like when I do that, but we have to really get clear on what's going on with us, okay? And that should be a given when we talk about astrology. We're all reflecting on our charts. We're all reflecting on our life experience. And like most of my videos are doing my best to speak to that. When it comes to the collective stuff, of course, we will always continue that conversation. But the Gemini part of our life is extremely important to know deeply at this moment in time, because that part of your life is very mentally stimulating, probably where your nervous system has the shortest fuse. And the way it's going to be connecting with Aquarius, that part of your life, and also Aries, is going to really paint the picture of where this blast of awakening and disruption and sudden insight and innovation will be coming from. And for some of us, this can be very messy, because, ripping a Band-Aid off and exposing a wound and then realizing, oh my God, we need to find new medicine to soothe this problem is, it's not an easy thing to do. And we have to really get clear on who we are right now and what we want in life and where do we want to position ourselves in life. So this is the beginning of the revolution in you. So I have a few talking points that I want to go down. One is an inner awakening of the mind, Now, we talked about actually the Decan, that this first ingress, when this ingress happens, the first Decan of Gemini, what this is all about. And I take the Decans very seriously. I take the tarot card symbolism very seriously in the association with the Decans. And I think in the one big Uranus and Gemini video I made a couple of weeks ago, I talked heavily on that. The Decan is ruled by Jupiter, and the tarot card association with this Decan is the Eight of Swords. So if anyone who knows the Eight of Swords, the imagery is the blindfolded figure surrounded by swords, and they're pretty much bound and they can't move. This is a symbol for being mentally trapped. Okay, mental entrapment is how I like to view the Eight of Swords, creating a prison of your own or being in mental prison. So Uranus is going to come in and liberate us, or try to bring us out of those mental entrapment patterns. Okay, so a lot of us are going to be getting ripped out of the patterning that we've always been used to. You may suddenly become aware of thought patterns, narratives, and mental habits that have been running on autopilot. So this is why on the world stage, this could be so incredibly insane because the old world is going to be electric shocked like no tomorrow. So, but in our own life, this is a time where awakening is going to be most radical. And I'm saying that with the most hope and optimism as I possibly can, because the time has come, my friends, for us to go full steam ahead with breaking free of the patterning and of the mental traps and prisons that we have built around our life, and also the things that have placed those, stories upon us. So again, depending on where Gemini is in your life really paints the picture on how this is playing out. If Gemini was your 7th house, this could be the time you have a massive awakening around your relationship with your partner, or maybe your business associates, potentially. The 7th house isn't just about love and marriage. It's deeper than that. So you could be having a lot of liberation around the relationship space, and you may suddenly meet someone, the love of your life, and this may completely shatter your worldview. And so again, this is not just all negative nor positive, but we are talking about suddenly becoming aware of deep truths that need to be liberated. Okay. Mental habits need to be broken. This can feel disorienting. No one's saying it won't. No one is saying it will. It's just realizing realizing where you've been operating in your life. And maybe it's felt like a maze. Maybe it's felt slightly beautiful there. Maybe your Gemini part of your life is wonderful. I mean, mine has sort of been good in the last year. Jupiter brought me a lot of actually really nice things. But now I feel like what Jupiter brought me, it's almost like, okay, now I'm going to get radicalized and awakened further, that I'm hoping only brings new experiences into my life that help me accelerate further awakening and mental liberation, So this is a time for mental liberation, period, full stop. But liberation also starts with discomfort. So we have to be okay with that. And this is why I feel all of us need grounding spiritual practices as well, because the awakening of the mind is not something to take lightly. Not everybody's nervous systems or realities are primed for awakenings of the mind. We all have our numbing things that we like to numb our lives with. We all have our vices, and I want all of us to find a vice that can help the nervous system calm down. This is very important, my friends. And I think over the course of my astrological journey here on YouTube, and obviously the teaching I'm going to be doing in the future. Lots of courses and classes coming in 2026, guys. Like, I cannot wait to launch some of the things I want to teach you, because it's not only just about astrology and tarot symbolism and all this other stuff. It's about our evolution as human beings, our evolution as souls. And if we're going to properly evolve, we need to integrate the human with the spiritual, like never before. We can't just we can't just be 100% human, primitive animal, or just pure soul light. We have to integrate both of them, and that is something that I feel a lot of people need to understand, especially in the spiritual communities, guys, because people are either blown out of their crown chakra, or they're still operating from like a severe ego consciousness, and we need to reconcile both of them. And I think being mentally liberated through this Uranus and Gemini time is going to be huge for some of that. So again, that 8 of Swords energy is really right on the money, and Uranus will get through the first 10 degrees of Gemini over the next, honestly, it's going to be like a 4 or 5 year journey, maybe a little less, until it gets to 10 degrees. So we have a bunch of years ahead of us where it's the mental liberation and really rewiring belief systems is going to be part of the story. And I'm saying belief systems because Jupiter rules this decan. So again, Jupiter in the first decan of Gemini is really about, again, getting more curious about deeper things, and Gemini needs to get deeper, if you ask me, because Gemini is definitely more surface level, in my opinion. As a Gemini moon, I feel it takes a lot, I'm very curious about probing deeper into the depths of certain things, but I have a lot of other signatures in my chart for that. But the nature of the first decan is very, what do you think triggers a mental liberation? We're talking about profound insight, profound awakening. So this Jupiter aspect to the first decan, in my opinion, brings the energy of expansion. So this desire to expand, and Uranus does not do it gently. So this is going to be, again, furthermore, another reason we need to have that spiritual practice in place for us to withstand the storms of, again, this rapid expansion of the psyche and of the spirit, if you will, as we are navigating the Pluto and Aquarius story and the early degrees of Aries stuff too. Because again, we're having a spiritual liberation, we're having a mental liberation, and the world, that is why the world is doing what it's doing as far as societal structures, leaderships and stuff, like, because they don't want us to spiritually liberate. They don't want us to be mentally liberated. It's very clear. Power wants to have power. And the power of the people is not something that leadership desires at all. So this is when things get real, right? So rewiring our belief systems is massive for this transit. And you may, again, and this is all going to come in flashes and very disruptive ways, but also at the same time, very liberating ways. So I don't want to speak. So like, again, I don't feel like I'm speaking negatively, but when I say mental liberation, this doesn't mean it's all scary or anything. I mean, it could be beautiful, my friends, beautiful. And this could be creating that urge to explore new ideas and to read different perspectives and to look at the world from a different lens. I think with all the shit going on in the world, a lot of us are starting to re-examine our beliefs, re-examine how we want to participate in this world, re-examine our careers, re-examining our office jobs or the corporate bullshit of the world, okay? And how we want to truly live out the rest of our lives. If you are older and seeing those last years of your life beginning, you might be having these liberating thoughts around, like, how do I communicate more deeply with spirit, with God, with something, you know? So again, it doesn't matter what age you are. There is a mental, we all have the capacity to mentally liberate ourselves, to reach an enlightenment of some kind. And this can be just purely from the sake of a religious or spiritual perspective, you know, because I know older folks, as they're finding their way out of this life, they, very much get more religious or spiritual. And there's nothing wrong with getting more religious or spiritual. In my opinion, I always try to guide people to the heart of all of that. And for me, Uranus and Gemini can provide those brilliant insights and explorations into the true nature of who we are and to connect with God or whatever the case may be. So with the other aspects, though, that are unfolding, of course, I mean, when we talk about Pluto, again, Pluto is the shaman of the zodiac. So getting deeply transformative and dealing with the power struggle that could come from Pluto is still very important to recognize, no matter what's going on in our life, whether positive or negative transformations. But this is the moment where we do kind of have these shamanic initiations. And that's actually another really good way to put all of this. Like, we're all going through a shamanic initiation. And the real question is how do you want to go about this the hard way or the easy way? Because there is an easy way to this, and that is surrendering to the reality of your situations and to truly following your heart. And of course, really examining your thought patterning and the way that you operate on a mental level. Okay. Because in order for our minds and our hearts to truly work together, we have to reconcile both of them. And we both have to get serious and spiritual, involving those things. So I think we have to understand the true conflicts within. And I think that's what Pluto is going to show us with this Uranus trine. So again, the fluid communication between Uranus and Pluto are going to be just rapid fire in our face, and we're going to be presented with all of the karma that we have built up in those parts of our lives, and how that is going to radically just present us with the opportunities to examine these things and to shamanically transform those parts of our lives, So, I mean, I know for me, I've been faced with some serious karma involving the fourth house of home, involving, and also the deeper spiritual and emotional foundations within myself, because Pluto is there in Aquarius for me. And the 8th house is where Gemini is for me. So, I mean, again, I can go on a tangent on how this is affecting, again, my home dynamics and the deeper place within myself. And again, my emotional and spiritual foundation. But I'm expecting a lot more rapid fire mental liberation around ways that I've always existed. And I could already see and feel the transformations within me that I know are going to be very, very insanely transformative. And some days, I'll be honest with you, some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, guys. I don't know how I'm going to like really show up in this particular part of my life in the way that I know I need to now. But at the very same time, I have the trust that things will unfold the way they unfold. And the more like psychic I become, the more I understand more deeply the process of things. And I think that's something we all have to really understand too, that the process of transformation and change and awakening and initiation is extremely necessary and difficult at times for us to become a greater version of ourselves, you know? And that's why we came to planet Earth, to evolve, to become greater versions of ourselves. I think that is the highest timeline that we're supposed to be chasing and evolving towards. That's what astrology kind of can help us do. It can show us the challenges, and then we can use some maybe greater spiritual philosophy to guide us through the transits that are unfolding, which is where in my world, mindfulness and some Buddhist ideology is very helpful. And also just getting more clear on what really makes our heart sing, you know, and what really makes us feel love, you know, in the deepest of ways. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say, my friends. I know I've rambled on a lot, but I really just wanted to stress more clearly on how mental liberation and how rewiring our belief systems here is extremely important for us to navigate the peril of the world, the transformations of the world, and how the world in itself is going through its own mental awakening, going through its own collective mind shifts, going through its own collective ways of how information is shared, okay? Because the information landscape within your own life and also, again, within the world structure, this is how we're going to navigate all of this, okay? We're in a very mental time that's also very linked to a deeply spiritual and shamanic time, which is why people are calling for such disruption on the world stage. And this is why we have to be ready for disruption in our own life. But again, the disruption for us, I think, is a deep medicine. And this deep medicine is the catalyst for the change we are all longing for. And this is something I want you to understand. And this is all starting with the mental. Okay, we have to get real with the mental patterning and the mental states and what we are, the beliefs that we have ingrained in ourselves, because the beliefs that we have about ourselves in certain parts of our life, they're going to get shattered. Okay. And I know the Gemini part of my life is about to get shattered by what Uranus is about to show me, but I'm anticipating the revelation that can come from that is going to be so essential for my evolutionary growth, you know, as an astrologer, as a human, as a partner of someone I deeply care about, as a son of parents. So there's a lot going on. And I think these radical shifts must be embraced. And getting clear on what can help our nervous systems is going to be very, very helpful. Like I said, throughout the course of this video. So in future videos, you know, maybe I'll talk more on how to help nervous system regulation. I mean, meditation is probably one of the best things I could recommend, but I know a lot of us can't really meditate that well. But, you know, any way to do some nature bathing or submerging in water, I think water is going to be very important. Maybe this year for a lot of us. Okay. There could be even a lot of water events that unfold just on the world stage. Again, I know people are predicting tsunamis. I don't want to fucking go down that road. But again, water could be both healing and possibly destructive on the world stage. But I think we could use more water submersion. I think that could really help our nervous systems in this time. So that all being said, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this further commentary. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next video.